Hi friends, welcome back to another chat and chill. If we have a better name for it, please come up with one, but that's all I could come up with at this point. Today we're going to be discussing the ever important topic of why so many of you thought fruit salad was a dessert. In the recent vlog that had the giveaway, I was like, oh yeah, leave your favorite summer dessert and that'll automatically enter you. And so many people were like, fruit salad. I was like, no, friend, fruit salad's part of your meal and it counts as healthy. But I learned that I was wrong in that. So that really distressed me. Glad we could get that out of the way. I need to know your opinions on that down below. If you feel like fruit salad is a dessert and not like a part of the meal that you can count in your healthy column, do let me know why, because I'm worried about you. And other things we will be discussing are university health, which I think is really interesting because we were throwing down different like job ideas. The last two of these have kind of been like talking about just like kind of where I'm thinking my NP career might go in a more non-traditional way. And a lot of you recommended, I've shot down all of your ideas so far because you've kindly made them and I'm like, no, that won't work for me. Like a toddler. And then last week, a lot of you were like, well, what about like university health or school nursing? So I've come to shoot those ideas down for you. For myself, they might be great options for you. My face is really sweaty, so my glasses are sliding down. It's the 5th of July, but we celebrated July 4th today. So we've just been like outside all day, which was really fun, but I'm in a state. Anyway, so university health. I actually think this is fascinating and a great option for nurse practitioners. I'm sure there's nursing roles in it, all sorts of healthcare things, because it deals with the part of the population that I love. Like I love young adults. I love talking about like sexual health, reproductive health, just how, and I feel like it's their first introduction to the healthcare system a lot of the times at this age between like 18 and 22 usually, where you can kind of set the stage for what they then expect from their healthcare. So if you're very like respectful of them, their choices, you explain things really well. You know, they're going to kind of expect that going forward, hopefully, and you can really influence like the way they see the healthcare system and teach them how to use it a little bit. So I think that's absolutely fascinating. If I ever did like want to go back and work more like full time, because I think it would be hard to do like 1 day a week there, which is kind of what I'm aiming for in terms of my clinical time would be like 1 day a week so I can do my other endeavors. I think it would be hard to do that 1 day a week, but I think it would be fabulous to go and do something like that later on down the road in terms of my career. Like I would love that. Those are my favorite patients. I love doing like women's health in that age and just like explaining all the different birth control options and make sure people are getting like screened and answering their questions about their bodies that they've never really asked before. So I think that's super awesome. So that's a really great thing to look into if you're looking for a job, is looking in like university health, because there's so many, like that's such a cool population if you're into that age. I feel like everyone has their age and I love young adults. They're like, oh, my fave. Just because they're so open to learning. Old people are super adorable. They're just really complicated and that makes me nervous. They come in and they're like on 20 meds and I'm like, oh my gosh, what is happening here? And then the other one that I shot down, I feel like everyone's trying to be so helpful and I'm like, no, I don't want to do that, was school nursing. School nursing, it sounds a lot more full-time than I want to be. And it's just not I feel like, I don't know, can you work as a nurse practitioner in a school? Some might. I know some places do, and they do more physical type of stuff in the schools because they have a lower access to healthcare in general, so they try to do it through the school. I feel like with that, like you're treating more the kid, but the changes need to come from the parent, and that goes a lot into like why I didn't go into pediatrics. I'll link a video of why I worked peds as a nurse, bedside for a long time, but I could never go into it as a nurse practitioner, and I explained all of that there. I feel like that would play into that a lot. So I'm actually, one of my good friends is a school nurse, and so I've gotten a good view of that too, like of what she does, and I'm just like, that is so not for me, like personally. My mom was also a school nurse for a while, and her experience seemed to be very like, oh, this is absolutely nothing, or like, oh my gosh, the bone is sticking out of your arm, and I'm like, that's just like, it's like anesthesia where it's like really boring until it's not, and then it's really not boring, and I'm like, that's not the line I want to toe at all. So that's why school nursing is out, but that's also a great option if you want more traditional hours. Your schedule would be more along the line of like an academic calendar. So you get like the summers off, you would have Christmas and the holiday break off. weekends off, evenings off. So that's a really good one to consider. And some states require a master's degree, I think, to do that, but most states, to my knowledge, don't. I haven't heavily researched it because, like I said, my friend went into it and she was describing her job. I'm like, that's not for me. Too nothing and then scary. But those are the next two jobs that I thought I would throw out there we could talk about, and then I could tell you why I didn't want to do them, but it just opens up a job opportunity for you if you are interested. So go hop on over there. I also want to just say thank you to everybody who's been sending a ton of encouragement my way, and I just really appreciate you. And I wish everyone had the cheer squad that I have because I feel kind of bad because I've just gotten so much encouragement to veer in a way that's not traditional, and a lot of people just saying, hey, it's okay to go away a different path, that a lot of you have gone into different aspects of your job that when you start off on your career, you're obviously my end point is going to be I'm a family nurse practitioner, so I'm going to work in a family clinic until I am until the end of my career. And you said your job has taken you a detour and kind of parallel over here a few roads, and that's okay. Other jobs, a lot of you brought to the fact that in other careers, that's totally normal. It's totally normal. Like Joe, my husband, he is majored in computer information systems, and he's gotten learned a lot of other skills along the way. And now he's doing software engineering. That is not what his degree was intended for. But now he's working the ranks in there and doing all sorts of cool stuff there. So very, very normal for people in other careers to kind of go in someplace and get slotted out somewhere totally different. In nursing, we don't really like that as much, but there's so many different nursing jobs, and that's hopefully, I think, one of the things I would love to take away from these chats, and as the conversation evolves, just talk about all the different avenues, because I don't want these to come across as nursing is the worst. I want it to come off as realistic of this is what it is, and it's going to be great for some of you, and some of you are going to hate it. There's so many different avenues in it too, so it's not you need to go and quit tomorrow. You know what I mean? There's so many different choices. All right, let me see. I wrote a list down. So if you ever, I'm making these questions and these chats based on the common themes I've seen that week. So if you want something to be kind of discussed in these more casual, sort of all over the place mini Q&As that whatever, that's how I get these questions. So it's just going off of what I see in the comments. I'm oh, that would be a good thing to real quick sit down and chat about. And again, if you like this format, let me know. And if you don't, let me know too, because they're kind of fun and super easy. I'm oh, this is just I would be talking to my friend. All right, let me check. I wrote down my topics.
All right, we talked about how I think the fruit salad thing is disturbing. School nursing, health nursing.
Oh, and the last one. Would I work as a nurse again? No, I don't think so, because one, I would never want to go back to the hospital because I don't want that schedule. I hated holidays and weekends, especially as I had children. And, when it was fine in the beginning, honestly, because my husband was in school, and so it was fine. He wasn't stuck to, he worked some weekends when he was doing retail stuff. But then when he got a real job, his real job, he was working traditional hours. And so then I was on the weekends all the time to balance out school. So I don't want to go back to that. I don't want to go back to working holidays. I cried every single holiday. Didn't matter how minor it was. I needed to cry about it. And I just didn't like that hustle vibe. I don't want to worry about going into work and someone dying ever again. That is not something I ever want to be part of my normal day. After a while, it just got really tiring of that just got old. I got sick of seeing people not do well and decompensate, and I realized that's totally normal to want to go into work and not have someone die in front of you. That's not making you a weak human. That's just that's not a normal human experience. Never in anyone else anyone else, you go up to most people in the world, you're oh, how'd you do it? Anybody die at work today? They're being sarcastic. And many times I could be yeah. And then it really killed that whole vibe of the conversation. And they were oh my gosh, are you okay? And you're I just dark humor, compensate. So I don't want that. And there's nothing wrong with that. If you are also just over it and you don't want to go in and see sadness every day. I mean, there's goodness and happiness too, but there's also it's a heavy job. So I don't really have any interest in going back into that environment. And I know there's other nursing jobs that you could go back and do. If I was ever to go back and need to use my go and get a nursing job, I would probably be interested in a nursing care coordinator, which is a fascinating job where you pretty much coordinate everything. Kind kind of as the job implies, like get the insurance hooked up, get the home health hooked up, get the, how are your appointments going to follow? They follow people like from the hospital. Like I worked in peds cardiology. So they would get together these are your follow-up appointments. These are the teams you're going to be set up with. This is your home health. This is your physical therapy. And they did everything and they got it approved by insurance and they kind of packaged it all up and helped you get on the plan, because if you have a lot going on and you're a complex case, you have a lot going on. So that I think would actually be really interesting. And then the other thing would be like, would I go into primary care as a nurse? And I think that would just be hard because at this point, since I've been a provider for long enough, like I wouldn't be able to I would blur the line between like what is in your scope as a nurse and what's in your provider. And then I would want to like probably overstep bounds. So it's like not ideal. I mean, could I, if I had to go back and do a nursing job because like we absolutely like, what if Joe got laid off and we needed it and that was like the job I could get? Yes, I would do it. But like if given the choice, I would probably not, just because of the hospital schedule or like blurred lines in primary care. Unless it was core care coordination, which is kind of fascinating to me. But I probably wouldn't. Can you is another question I get. And it depends on what state you live in, I want to say, because if you get sued, you can be held to the highest degree or the highest license that you have. So say you were working as a nurse and you got sued, they would sue you as an NP. So they would say, well, technically you should have known not to do this. And that can put some healthcare systems don't want to assume that liability. So they're like, no, you're like in a nursing role, but you would be like, they would take you, like charge you as an NP and we don't want to deal with that. So some hospitals will say no, like once you have your NP license, that's it. Like you can't work as a nurse, but a lot do let you. They'll let you come in. And I know a lot of people who did PRN, for a long time. They would come in and work PRN as a nurse, and then they worked part-time or even full-time as an NP, and they just did the RN job to get a little bit more money. So you certainly can, just depends on where you work. Most people, I will say, like fizzled out of that after like a year or two. I think most people, the fun of it, not the fun, but like you can get a lot of money working per diem. And I think at a certain point, like it's kind of like with overtime, at first it seems like a great idea. And then you're like, no, I want my day off. I think it's kind of like that. People just get burned out. So that wouldn't probably be a route that, I never did that. I was like, no, bye. But that won't shock you. So there we go. Thanks for coming to our random. I think this is now going to be like a Tuesday chat, but it's fine. Let us know if you like them. Us, as in me. I've lost my mind today and now there's two of me. Let me know. We'll see I'll find some. Maybe we'll do I've been snarkily replying to a lot of people's snarky comments, like in the exact same fashion they have. So maybe we'll review some of those next week just for fun. Cause it's fun. It gives me enjoyment. All right. Have a good week, friends. Hope you had a good 4th of July. We'll see you later. Bye.